You are tuned in to the Leading Edge Conversations podcast. We're about to dive deep, so strap yourself in and get ready to explore the leading edge of consciousness. Welcome, beautiful people, to this episode of the Leading Edge Conversations podcast. My name is Luke Scott III, and today I have the absolute pleasure of interviewing and introducing you to Sarah Lea.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Oh, I'm super excited too. Sarah is one of my absolute favorite animal activists, heroes on Instagram. She makes
You're
me
so
laugh
sweet.
so much, and
I'm glad.
she is fully embracing her wonderful weirdness. And if you have not checked her out before, what's your Instagram handle, Sarah, so everyone can go follow you?
It's the Sarah Lea, TheSarahLea.
Nice. And is there anywhere else people should go? Where can they find out all of your wonderful...
the website, like for everything we're going to be talking about, is www.thesarahlea.com. So it's all across the board, The Sarah Lea.
The Sarah Lea. I like it.
Yeah.
So, for anyone who doesn't know Sarah yet, where have you been? What have you been doing? You've been hiding in a little cave?
Yeah, I've been hiding at my vegan cult. Where we just like eat plants and live off of oxygen. No, I'm joking. Kind of, but yeah, I'm actually in South Africa at the moment, working on my animal communication transformation course, and just creating vegan content, arguing with trolls, and living my best vegan life, basically.
Living the best vegan life. That's it. That should be on a t-shirt. That should be a t-shirt. Why is that not on a t-shirt?
I know, we need to make it. Sell the merch.
Yeah, let's do it. So Sarah is a professional animal communicator, which means people pay her to communicate with animals and help the animals. And that's something that I do too. Anyone who's listening, maybe you don't know that about me yet. I help animals, I help plants, I help the earth. There's loads of different things that can happen when you turn vegan. You get all of these superpowers, and you start to figure out that what you see in the comic books is actually real life.
Totally. We are actually living Popeye. We're just Popeye. We've been eating our spinach and we have mad strength.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. I like it. Sarah also founded this amazing supplement company called Heal, which is CBD-based products to help animals as well. Do you want to just tell people a little bit about that? We'll dive into it more later.
Yeah, so basically it's a branch off of my experience as an animal communicator. And I work with so many rescue animals and animals with past history, anxiety, trauma. And what most people don't recognize, even if you are vegan, is that animals are also a product of their environment. And so I was dealing with a lot of animals that were a product of their environment and they had severe trauma in their mind. And so what I was doing was using a pet formulated hemp oil coupled with certain understanding that I have of anxiety and trauma in animals to rewire that trauma. And basically what my products do, depending on the different ailments, there's 4 different types of anxiety. And then obviously there is, inflammation and things like that. But Heal initially was designed to lift the curtain of anxiety so you can start rewiring trauma and negative belief systems in animals so that they can ultimately live a more harmonious experience. We'll chat about it and I can go into more detail, but it's my baby. I'm very proud of the brand. And I'm super proud that it's helped a lot of animals, and that's the point, to be honest.
Amazing. We'll pop all these links below, but check that out. It's at Live Heal, HEEL.
Yeah.
You can go check those out if you've got any animal friends who could use some of that magic too.
Yes, thank you.
And one of the things we're going to talk about is your amazing animal communication and transformation course. This really pulled me in. I've been following you for a while. I've been kind of stalking you a little bit on Instagram and checking you out and really loving it. And then I saw you coming out more recently saying how you can help people become animal communicators, create a couple of extra $1,000 a month, or even become a full-time animal communicator.
Yeah.
And you've got a course coming up and a masterclass coming up. Do you want to tell people a little bit about that? We'll dive into it more again later. Give them the headline.
So So I have been an animal communicator for a long time, and that's how I've earned my living. And I've obviously learned a lot of different things along the way, and how to find your unique code and all of these things. And as effective as my animal communication sessions are, and I'm able to help not only the animal but the person, and we'll also talk about like what animal communication is, because a lot of people think that it's like I have a crystal ball with fur on it, and that's just not the case at all. Everybody has this ability, as I'm sure you will agree. You just have to hone it and work with it, right? But my mission, really, it's the only thing that I know, and I really believe that my purpose here on earth in this lifetime or whatever is to leave this place better for the animals than when I found it. And in a very effective way for me to do so is to leave it with more people that can clearly understand the experience of an animal and communicate it to others. And so a lot of people asked me to train them. And so I started training them and working one-on-one. And it's so amazing. I mean, all of my students are now working professionally. And we worked on honing their skills and everything like that. But there was too many people asking me, and I can only do like 2 or 3 people a month if I'm going to do it properly. So I've been working for like 10 months on this masterclass, this animal communication transformation masterclass. We have a webinar that I think you're coming to. And then they will get access to the course there. And it's a super intense A to Z of the animal communication from everything. Finding your unique code, honing your unique code, discovering the veil, rainbow bridge, timeline symbolism, understanding like what animal communication is, the energetic bodies of animals versus humans, the business of animal communication, because a lot of people, I know people that are very powerful in what they do, but they don't understand the business and they're not business minded. And if you're going to really carry out this mission on planet Earth, you also have to be business minded. And you also have to learn to be confident in creating a personal brand and showing people who you are, which has been super effective. So I have like the business content strategy for animal communicators that's in there. So ultimately, they can buy that course. It's only available until October 31st. And they will start, and by the end of it, they should be able to start taking sessions professionally. And that is my way of, if I die tomorrow, I know that I'm going to leave it with very powerful animal communicators. So, yeah.
So good. We're doing almost the same thing.
Yeah.
So I do recorded courses as well. So
Amazing.
I teach people quantum healing. We have a modality called Cure It, which is quantum regression therapy. And whatever's happening in your life, we cure it with Cure It. So you mentioned anxiety. So we have a testimonial on our YouTube channel. If you type in Luke Scott anxiety testimonial, one of our practitioners, they learned how to do this. They had a 12-year-old girl who had crippling anxiety, couldn't leave the house, couldn't function. Did one session with her. Found out why was the anxiety there, because it's always there for a reason. The reason was she had this fear of dying. So I'm a hypnotherapist by trade, and that's what we teach people. It's a really relaxed kind of hypnotherapy. There's no trances or anything. And she got her to reprogram, get rid of that fear of dying. And one session, she's a perfectly happy, healthy little girl now. Gone.
Amazing.
See this with animals as well. One of our friends brought their cat over to stay with us while they went on vacation. And she said, "Oh, you know, the cat doesn't really like people. Just be careful." And straight away, the cat comes and sits on my lap. Send it love. And when she comes back in 2 weeks, the cat's friendly now. Its anxiety's gone. It's not scared of people anymore. And it was just like you said, it had some trauma that that just like people do and just like children do. I have a 3-year-old daughter and a 7-month-old daughter.
Oh, amazing.
So I'm really in this trauma game of like trying our best not to screw up our kids, right? Trying our best not to screw up with the animals.
You're just walking around on eggshells all day long.
Well, owning it when you do make a mistake.
Well, exactly,
Owning it and apologizing and being there and showing them, hey,
that's amazing.
Your pets are so sensitive. Everyone, if you've never heard of this before, pets take on their owner's stuff. And I use the word owner loosely. I know different animal rights people, we don't call it that necessarily. But they take on the energies of the people that they're around. And a lot of people aren't
Yeah.
aware of this. So we're going to geek out about all the animal communication
Yeah.
stuff as well.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you how I found you, and you probably hear this all the time. You made this video about why cows make milk. It's because they're mothers,
Oh my God.
and
That
that one
post
blew
right
up, right?
now, I can't, like, I have not been able to go on my Instagram because a minefield at the moment. That video that I posted, the comment section, I think there's like 3,000 comments at this point. It's hell. It went to the wrong side of Instagram, but I'm glad that it connected us. And one good thing came out of that video.
I got 6 million views on one of my videos on Instagram.
Yeah.
It ruined it. You can't check anything. You can't see
Yeah,
anything. Every
it's
second you log
hectic.
in, you've got 100 comments and 100 shares, and
Yeah, it's
it's
super intense.
a
Like,
problem.
yeah, I mean, that video has rewired what people perceive about milk for a lot of people. And that's the whole point. Like, I would not be on Instagram if it wasn't serving a purpose. Like, those videos have been able to, because a lot of people, it's shocking to you and I because we've actually educated ourselves, but to a lot of people, because information is kept from the public, it just is. And a lot of people do not know that a mother cow has to have given birth in order to produce milk, in order to lactate. She's a mammal, and people don't know that. They think that dairy cows just produce milk year round, and so that was the purpose of that video, which it got a lot of people thinking, and that was the whole point. But it also brought with it, and that's the dark side to like activism on Instagram, even if it's smart. Like, I use human, all of that stuff, but there's definitely times where there's a dark side to it because there are so many people that get triggered by it, and we know why. And so many people that have just so much hatred or so disconnected from other living beings that it can really get you down. I mean, I have, from that video alone, and it's interesting that you bring up that video at this time because this week specifically has been very hard. I'm not sure if you saw, I had somebody send me a message from that video and say that he is going to come and brutally RIPE me because I'm a vegan tyrant. I've had crazy death threats, people saying that these animals deserve to suffer. Like, it's very hard to do your bit and also not be affected, you know? But at the same time, it's a good lesson and it's a good reminder for me because the reason that I do this is to serve a purpose. And I will never reach 8 billion people. None of us will. Like, it's a pipe dream in reality to want to be able to convince 8 billion people. But what we can do is convince 10% of that versus us not doing anything or us succumbing to the fear that is put on us from these literal psychopaths, you know? So yeah, that's definitely something that I'm dealing with at the moment. But it also, as scary as receiving those messages is as a woman, it is also a compliment because I know that I'm doing something right, you know?
I've done all different kinds of activism too. Megaphone going through the streets,
Yeah.
billboards showing everything, and people do get very, very aggressive. I
Yeah.
spoke at 10 festivals this summer
Oh,
promoting.
amazing.
I mainly promote fruitarianism personally. So
Divine.
I love watermelons. We
We
have a
love a
group
good
called
watermelon.
we have a tribe called the Watermelon Tribe where we just teach people how to eat watermelon. We've got hundreds of people in there, and it's cool.
Wow.
We'll post our pictures every day of our watermelon juices and
Wow,
everything.
amazing.
And I was at a festival, and someone came up to me, and they're like, "You should not be teaching this. This is dangerous." And they were eating a sausage at the time made of animal flesh.
Yeah.
They were like, "If children hear what you are saying, you're really going to damage them." And I was like, "What?" But they were
Oh
aggressive. They were
my
shouting in
God.
my
I
face,
cannot
like,
see. That just drives me nuts.
and if anyone doesn't know why this happens, so
Yeah.
firstly, anyone who's listening, that is not acceptable. Even if you're triggered, never do that. Never message Sarah or any other woman or any other person.
Yeah.
Like, learn how to deal with your triggers first thing.
Yeah. It's okay. I literally have the FBI trying to find this man, so we're good. We're gonna find him. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Because it's
secondly,
unacceptable.
if you don't know why this happens, I do have a video on my YouTube channel about cognitive dissonance. So if you type in Luke Scott cognitive dissonance, cognitive dissonance is when your brain is trying to hold two different ideas at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like, I love animals, but I pay people to kill them.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, if I agree with Sarah that actually hurting animals is bad, then I have to change. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's very uncomfortable for people, and they start doing crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
and it's not necessarily their fault, because we're
No,
not taught
exactly.
how
We're
to deal
human.
with it.
Yeah.
It's this automatic like trigger that comes up.
Totally.
Learn how to sit with your feelings, everyone.
Yeah.
It's not cool to do that.
Yeah, and that's why I always say that, like in the vegan content that I have, I always say that I also once consumed animal products. Like I also
What?
drank milk. Yeah, I know.
What?
I also drank
You
milk.
always eat grass?
No. Contrary to popular belief. You know, like growing up in South Africa, you eat ostrich steak. Like I grew up eating all of that shit until I found out for myself, because no one was telling me what was happening to these animals. Once I found out for myself, there was a different story, you know? So we're all human. Nobody is perfect. Even vegans, we're not perfect, you know? We all have flaws. We're all human, but it's okay to be like, oh, now that I know it, now that I have the information, it's actually okay for me to make a change. You know?
You gotta make a change for once in your life. Stop
Even though
eating
I'm
those animals. Leave them alone and eat rice.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
Or watermelons.
Oh, watermelon. Yeah, I was just about to say.
Leave the rice alone. Stop picking on that rice.
Oh, exactly.
It's a feelings too.
Oh god. Yeah.
Sarah, trolls is a really interesting part of being an influencer, isn't it? And like putting ourselves out there, and you do have to have a sense of humor, but it does get very intense sometimes. I actually purposefully step into debates.
Yeah.
So I was on a podcast recently with this big carnivore influencer, and it was intense. You know, it was. I was sharing my side of this of why I have my choices, and he shared his side.
Yeah.
And he's saying, "Look, I don't think I could ever eat fruits, and this is what I believe." And I was saying, "Well, this is what I believe, and I don't think I can ever eat animals." And it was like,
Yeah.
and two different people, both very heart centered. He's a nice guy, you know. He's doing good stuff in the world. I do purposefully put myself in rooms like that to try and just inspire people, but it's not for everyone. It can be quite intense, and I think it's something you build up a tolerance to. I actually enjoy it now. I love being with the people who are more skeptical about it. And for anyone who is thinking about stepping on the vegan path, maybe they're on the edge, maybe they know they should, but they, you know, not making the change. What do you say to those kind of people?
It's a good question. I mean, for me, obviously, I would want to live in a purely perfect vegan world. But I'm also realistic, and I know that this world is not black and white. It's incredibly gray. And so a larger difference, a greater difference, knowing that about the world and accepting that about the world, a greater difference can be made if everybody, I would rather have 1 million people just do a meat-free Monday or just cut out the dairy and still eat meat than 1,000 people go vegan. And of course, I would want the entire world to go vegan, but I also have to be realistic. So for anybody that is thinking, oh, well, yeah, I mean, it is better, but, you know, does my my little change, like actually make a difference? It makes a huge difference. Like if one person is saying, does my switching from dairy to oat milk make a difference? Said 1 million people. Like, can you imagine if even 10,000 people just made that switch? It's a huge difference. By you not purchasing dairy on the shelves, you are directly affecting the chain of supply and demand. And a lot of people will argue against that because of the tax dollars going towards like keeping the dairy industry alive. But that's not going to be for much longer. Like when you're looking at numbers, because at the end of the day, when you're looking at slaughterhouses, when you're looking at the production of milk, bacon, beef, all of that stuff, these are also businesses. And why are these businesses alive and thriving? Because there is demand for these businesses. There's demand for these products. So we can't be mad. Like, people are like mad at these slaughterhouse workers, or they're mad at the owner of the, bacon industry or whatever. Yeah, okay, I think you can find a way better job than killing 10,000 pigs a day, 100%. But you have so much more power than you think by just opting for something that does not include the suffering of animals. You are directly affecting the chain of supply and demand. If there is no demand, when you're picking up that bacon from the shelf, you are contributing to the demand. So just a small change, like just making one little thing a week is like, it makes the world of difference,
I made the switch in 2016. I had what I call a spiritual awakening. It was before that I was drinking a lot of alcohol. My favorite food used to be steak. My favorite drink used to be beer.
Yeah.
And then I started meditating. I realized there was more to life than what I was doing, which is basically drinking myself into oblivion most weekends because I was really unhappy and I had all this unresolved trauma. And I met some people who were genuinely happy, and they took me on a path and they started to help me and to realize.
Yeah.
And the big shift that happened for me was I learned how to connect to energy. And I became really sensitive to energy.
Yeah.
And I'm a geek. I love quantum physics. And if anyone's ever studied that, you'll know that energy can never be created or destroyed. It's only transferred.
Yeah.
So I remember really clearly, I went to one of the fanciest steak restaurants in London, right?
Yeah.
And I ordered this really expensive thing, which I would usually love. And I just fell into the energy of what was on my plate.
Yeah.
And the energy was horrible.
Horrible.
It was
Horrible.
fear and sadness. And
Yeah.
it must have come from some kind of industrial factory farm. It was just horrible. And I just thought, whoa, if I eat that,
yeah, exactly.
that sadness and fear and death and energy that's going into me, my body has to process that somehow. Because I'm an energy healer. I do energy healing with people. So I know how this game works. And I just couldn't eat it anymore. And then I started feeling, okay, well, how does a watermelon feel?
Yeah.
And I went into the supermarket and I walked through what I used to, because I've been doing bodybuilding since I was a teenager. Arnold Schwarzenegger told me I needed 200 grams of protein a day.
Exactly. Yeah.
I used to eat 2 chickens a day, and it was crazy, right? And I walked down what I used to call the meat aisle. And it was the first time I ever looked around, and I just realized I am literally surrounded by dead animals.
Literally.
It had never clicked in my head before.
Yeah.
It had never clicked that that's a sheep and that's a pig and that's a cow. And I was horrified. So I ran out and I went and I picked up an egg.
Yeah.
And it was not a free range egg. It was from a chicken that had been in a cage its whole life, never touched the grass, awful conditions in some crazy shed in its own filth. And I picked up this egg and I just felt the energy of the egg, and it was sadness. I cannot put that into my body.
Yeah.
And this set me on a path, and this is my invitation to everyone who's listening.
Yeah.
If you can learn how to be sensitive, and this is what animal communication is for me, learn to be sensitive. You can feel how a cat feels, or a cow, or a tree. I have some beautiful plants here. You can feel how they feel. They tell me when they're thirsty. They literally talk to me. They tell me I need water now.
Yeah.
And you can train this. And with my baby daughter, it's the same. Everyone has this gift.
Yeah.
We're not taught to be sensitive, and we numb ourselves with pharmaceuticals and alcohol and meat and all of this stuff that makes us really heavy.
Yeah.
So that's how I try and help people.
Yeah.
From absolutely the animal rights side of things, but as well, it's physically take that time before you eat the thing. Feel how it feels. Do I actually want this in my body? Ask your body, do you want to consume this?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Game changer.
So it makes such a difference. And also, I really believe that all human beings have a thing in them where they have a moral compass. And unfortunately, society dumbs that down or suppresses that and teaches us not to consider the moral compass when looking at certain actions, what we're consuming, what we're buying, what we're doing, all of these things. That's society for the most part, right? But if you still have it. Every human being has it, even terrorists. We all have it. and we can be manipulated into not considering it. But we all know what happens for that animal to be on that plate, regardless of if they were in a slaughterhouse or what they went through, which is obviously relevant. But we all know that that animal had to die in order for it to be on your plate. That is a fact, right? So you already know that as a fact. There's no way to debate that. That's just a pure fact, right? Besides eggs, obviously. But if you look at that food, and if you are eating meat still and whatever, you are also subconsciously looking at that food, knowing what you know, and you have shame. We all do have shame associated with that food. I can't tell you how many people I know and friends that I have that are still consuming meat and dairy, and they'll say, oh yeah, I know at some point I've got to make the change. I'm just busy with this, whatever. What's happening is that they are attaching shame to the food on their plate, and then they are consuming it. So you are telling your body, you are giving your body more shame when you do that, and it's, for me, as someone who came from the modeling industry, who was very did all the diets, I was eating 500 calories a day, all of these things. I was able to navigate my body and the effects that certain things had on my body and all that stuff. And I had such an unhealthy relationship with food at one point. This was before veganism and anything like that, when I was still super young. And I had guilt associated with food. This was when I was still eating meat, associated with food. And then I realized that every time I was looking at that food and then eating it, I felt bad about the food. I had guilt associated with it. Weird. And then one of my friends just told me one day that you need to rewire that, look at your food and say, thank you for this beautiful food that heals and nourishes me. When I started doing that, all of my gut issues, all of these things went away. It makes such a difference. And I always do it. Quickly in my mind, I say, thank you for this beautiful food that heals and nourishes me. And it sounds so hippie, but it makes such a difference when you infuse the gratitude and the energy into that food that you're consuming. You are, by definition, and this can be proved in quantum physics anyways, as you know, by definition, you are consuming something of a higher vibration.
Yeah, it's an amazing doctor. Anyone who hasn't checked it out, go check out Dr. Masaru Emoto, who does these studies where he photographs water crystals and you play different frequencies to them, or you even say thank you, even just writing the word thank you on the glass, on the container, and it creates these beautiful water molecules, and they're in these amazing geometric shapes. And food is mostly water, you're mostly water. So being really kind, and if you put guilt into it, if you put guilt energy into it, you're eating that, then I really feel that as well, Sarah.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people who are tuning in, if they've listened this long, they're probably aligned with us. They probably love animals. Right? Maybe they just haven't clicked the pieces together, or maybe they have, and they're already fully living that most aligned life. For me, there's this piece around karma. And whatever you believe spiritually, karma is, for me, this idea that if we are saying it's okay for someone to enslave 80 billion animals, which get slaughtered each year, and 2 trillion sea creatures, if we're saying that's okay, and we're paying for that, because whatever you pay for, you're endorsing, then we can't really complain when other people do that to us.
Yeah.
And for the people who the billionaires and multi-trillionaires who control most of the earth, they see people kind of like cattle, right? They just, we're lifetime customers. They put us on all of these different drugs, and they just want to get as much cash out. We're like little bees in beehives too. Office blocks, have you ever noticed? Big skyscraper buildings, little bees in beehives. And it's really crazy that we haven't put that together yet. If we say it's okay to do that to animals, people will do that to us. And there's so many different ways I think we can help people. But one of the best ways, and I'd love for us to go into this now, is putting yourself in the position of the animals. So I used to purposefully, because it wasn't a straight transition for me, I went from eating everything, mostly carnivore actually, but everything, to then pescatarian. Someone told me fish don't feel as much, and so it was okay to still eat them. And so I went through that. And then I was on a beach in Malaysia. I run events all over the world, and I was on a beach in Malaysia, and I was meditating, and this little crab came up to me, and he literally a physical crab. I'm not making this up. He came up
Yeah.
to me, and I can talk to crabs. I can talk to everything. And he started speaking to me,
Yeah.
and he said, "Do you think I don't have feelings?" And
Yeah.
then I
You
got this
see.
connection, and it showed me, whoa, all the
Yeah.
creatures in the ocean, and even the shrimps, the prawns,
Yeah. No, exactly.
it showed me they have feelings and they have families, and like they don't want to be eaten.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I came back, and I'm like, well, okay, can't eat sea
Yeah.
creatures.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Way, but I'd never taken the time before because we're busy and life, and we don't think about it. I'd never taken the time to just connect with a fish or a crab.
Yeah.
How would this crab feel? And it genuinely makes me cry. I can't tell you how many nights I've cried
I
about what we do
know.
to
I know.
animals.
I know.
It's really intense for me. You go to these restaurants and you see the lobsters with their claws
No,
tied up,
no, it's hell.
and it's
It's
like,
hell.
wake up, everyone! Stop
I
being
know.
mean.
It's
So,
hell.
so pescatarian. Then I went pretty much fully vegan. This was in 2016. But the only thing I couldn't give up was dairy ice cream.
Yeah.
And back then, it's only 7 years ago, but there weren't that many alternatives, or it didn't
Yeah.
seem like there were. Now there's every kind of ice cream with almonds and coconuts.
The
And
best.
oh,
The
well, it's
best.
it's a freaking
Yeah.
great time to be a junk food vegan.
No,
It's a
exactly.
wonderful time if you want to still eat
It's
junky.
a wonderful time you want to be vegan for the animals and not for your health.
Well, you can be both, but
You
yeah,
can be
no,
both. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
just stop eating animals as a
No,
first step.
exactly. Yeah.
Poison yourself, that's fine. Hurt yourself,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
fine.
No, exactly.
Ideally, don't do that too. But
But we love
yeah.
a good vegan ice cream, to be honest.
Oh yeah, it's
I
all
could
good.
chuck back like 12 vegan donuts if I had the chance.
I love one of the posts that you did. It's like, what do you eat? What do you eat as a vegan? You never heard of oats?
Yeah, I know, like for real. Like peanut butter and jelly sandwich, carrots, like vegetables, fruits, nuts, grains, seeds, like,
You never
yeah.
had a potato?
Yeah. Oh, so you've never heard of a potato before? So funny.
So that was the last thing for me. Was like I call it the transition. So everyone, if you're listening in, it might be a transition for you, but this is literally what I did. And again, put
Yeah.
yourself in the shoes of the animals.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, we all have a heart.
Yeah.
Like if you are a living, breathing human being, by definition, you have a heart. Otherwise, you would not be standing up. You have a heart. And yes, it is a beautiful organ that pumps blood and keeps us alive. But it is also the heart space. And it is the space where we experience, where we give and receive love. That's just true. It doesn't matter what part of the planet you're from. When we talk about love or we consider love, it's from the heart. And every single person has a heart. It doesn't matter about your, in society and religion and all these things, teach you not to consider matters of the heart. That's true. Until if you're being conditioned, we've all been conditioned in some way, but we all have a heart. And if you drop into your heart when you're looking at what you're consuming, it will make such a difference when you start considering these things from your heart and not your mind. Yeah.
That's what we do. That's what we do. We're bringing people back into themselves.
To the heart.
Where's the beautiful heart-centered people at? Let us know in the comments if you're feeling this. I love the word heart-centered. I think heart-centered entrepreneurs, heart-centered people, they're the tribe. They're the ones who it's fun to play with. I spent most of my life in my head, and it's because we're just not taught, on purpose. Maybe there's a conspiracy, Sarah, to make people not be in their power. What do you think?
I know. Yeah. I mean, we would not be able to control the masses if we were all in our power. Like, how scary would that be?
Oh, what? If everyone was free and powerful and healthy?
Holy smokes.
What would we do?
There would be no money to be made.
What? It's crazy. If everyone grew their own food and lived in harmony.
No, I mean, war is like one of the biggest businesses out there.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I believe we can be the generation that ends wars. It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm 35 years old right now in human years. In alien years, I don't know how old I am, but in human years, 35. By the time I'm 75, there cannot be war on this planet. There just cannot be. When my grandchildren are old enough to speak, they're going to say, Daddy, people used to eat animals?
Yeah, no, for real. That's going to happen.
They'll be like, what?
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
didn't they eat oats? Like,
No,
you
exactly.
never heard of watermelon?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, I hope that they say that to your grandchildren, because there definitely has been a resurgence of carnivores, and a lot of vegans not vegan anymore, which is a little scary, but I think it's just a blip in the matrix. And so I'm just like, hey God, it's me. Do you mind just like clearing up this matrix net for a hot second? Because I don't know what the hell's going on. And I'm hoping all those people go back to being vegan. But I hope your grandchildren say that.
There's lots of different schools of thought. We have a newspaper here in England called the Daily Star. It's like a mainstream tabloid kind of newspaper. Literally posted yesterday on the front cover, "The Matrix is real." It had a picture of Neo from The Matrix. It said, "World-renowned physicists believe we live in a simulation. What does this mean for you?" And so
Yeah.
that was on the mainstream newspaper. So it's basically telling everyone we live in a computer game. And
Yeah. Oh
if we
gosh.
do live in a computer game, right? If that's cool, and you get to choose what you fuel your body with, I think everyone will. Like, the most important thing I believe we can do is get people to come back into themselves, into their
Yeah.
heart, like you said, so they can make conscious choices instead of unconscious
Yeah,
choices.
exactly.
And when I sat with that carnivore who I said I did the podcast with,
Yeah.
we are totally on board with abolishing factory farming. We both think
Yeah. No,
industrial
exactly.
farming is disgraceful and destroying the planet. And, it's like finding the common ground.
Yeah, exactly.
And I like to imagine if we were all in tribes, we've got the oats tribe, we've got the watermelon tribe, we've got all the different tribes,
So
and we come together in a tribal gathering, and everyone's got their own culture and background and stories. And there's a piece around honoring everybody where they're at, right? You
yeah.
can't make someone be what they're not. That just creates suffering. But if we can show people, hey, you can thrive
Yeah.
eating oats. Hey, you can thrive without. I just saw it amazing.
Join the potato gang. The potato
Potatoes
gang is where it's at.
potatoes, man. If we can just show people, there's this idea: if you want to change the world, don't fight the old systems, create new ones.
Yeah.
And I'm a part of different activism groups, and there's this idea that for social change to happen, you need about 3% of people to be on board with it, and the change goes through. Like, historically, if you look at social movements, so we're really close to 3% of the world being vegan. Like, it must be getting around that kind of figure.
I
It
know.
can't be
I
too
would
long
love to
now.
know what the percent actually is.
Yeah, it must be so close, and every chance I get, I'm just trying to bring people into their hearts. A multifaceted approach. Talk about the animal rights, talk about the health, talk about the heart, talk about the energy.
Yeah.
Like, get them on all the levels, right?
Yeah.
Find the one. So if we come back to the dairy piece, because I imagine a lot of people will be still hooked on dairy.
Yeah.
What I learned was, and this is not for you, Sarah, this is for everyone else. I'm sure you're well clued up on all this stuff, because that's important to know the information. So dairy has something in it called casein. And when your body breaks down casein, it makes something called casomorphine. And casomorphine is addictive. It's what makes the baby cow keep coming back for more milk. And so we are hooked on dairy. It's literally addictive. It's in the morphine family, right? It's like as addictive as those substances. And I found it really, really hard to give up the dairy.
Yeah.
So what I did, and every single one of you can do this. It was hardcore. I started watching documentaries like Dominion.
Yeah.
Dominion is a really intense documentary. It shows you exactly how milk is made. You can go on YouTube and type in "dairy is scary." It's this 5-minute video.
Yeah.
Just do that as a minimum, everyone. Go type in "dairy is scary" on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking, but keep your eyes open, freaking watch it.
Yeah.
And then when I pick up this tub of dairy ice cream,
yeah, you're like, it's not
all
worth it.
those images, I made myself look at where it comes from.
Yeah.
And then you can't do it.
Yeah.
And I think this is why the activism with the screens, not everybody likes it, but you go and you show the slaughterhouse footage.
No,
and stuff,
exactly.
And it most people never see that. And I think one of the things in our society, we're blissfully ignorant. But with our daughter, with our 3-year-old, we have these conversations. I don't show her that kind of footage.
No, exactly.
But we talk about it. If you want to eat an animal, then the animal has to die.
Yeah,
You know?
that's a fact. And yeah, I'm so glad that you're raising your kids like that, because the majority of society is lied to. Like, so many parents lie to their children. I don't think that that's okay. Like, I was lied to, and I know it was coming from a protective place, and also like, my guardians didn't probably know like what was going on to the animals, but everybody knows that, like, that beef, like, a parent knows that beef is actually a cow, but that part is kept from children. Like, the truth is kept from children. I really don't believe in that. Like, you have to equip your child to understand the world so that they can thrive and exist in it fully. If you don't understand the world that you're in, you're not equipped fully. And so keeping information from children about everything, you know, about safety, about what we're putting in our bodies, about the different functions of the body, like, all of this information is kept from children. And so I'm super grateful that you're raising your kids like that. Because imagine if all the children knew that bacon was actually pig, there would be no bacon anymore. Like, the bacon industry, like, no children would eat bacon.
Well, even now, you go to the supermarket, everyone, listen to this is going to blow your mind. You go to the supermarket, they have a whole aisle full of vegan foods.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
And when you reach your hand out to pick up the bacon made from pigs, instead move your hand about 12 inches to the side.
2 notches over.
Pick up the bacon made from
coconut. Soy. Yeah, exactly.
Coconut. So something.
Oh, coconut bacon I just live for coconut bacon, honestly. It is the best.
I just saw a Joey Carbstrong video today, and he was just talking about this, making a bacon sandwich but using tempeh.
Yeah, I love it.
He's so funny because he's just really direct. And
yeah.
Everyone's got their own style of activism as well. Like, everyone, if you're listening, don't do any activism yet. Just start telling people.
Yeah, in your own way. Like, in your own way. Even when you go to Costa Coffee or wherever you are in the world, and you order a cappuccino, like, even you saying, and they say, oh, what milk do you want? And you saying oat for the first time instead of dairy, that is activism. It is activism. It is directly affecting the chain of supply and demand, because Costa Coffee at the end of the month goes, oh shit, the amount of cappuccinos we made with dairy is less this month than it was before. Okay, let's buy more oat milk than dairy. We don't need as much dairy anymore. We need to supply more oat milk. That is activism. These small little changes are activism. You know? Yeah.
I do promote the healthy vegan lifestyle as well.
Yeah, no, exactly.
That's my preference. Like, come be vegan for the animals, amazing.
Yeah.
Come be healthy too, because when you're healthy, you have more energy.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have more energy, you can create more, and you can do weird stuff. And I remember your coffee video, and you're like, I just wake up,
just crack the coffee. Yeah, no, exactly.
It's, I wake up at 6:30 and just jumping.
Yeah, but it is, it's funny because, I eat a lot of food, but it's all whole foods. It's very rare that I would have like a processed burger or something like that, just because I don't like that food. I'm grateful for it, that it's there for vegans, but in terms of energy, like, it's just a low vibrational option. But I'm not against it. But I was just saying to a friend the other day that, especially in the last 2 years, I've done so much and I've been so busy, and I don't know that I would have had the energy if I was still consuming meat. Because I remember when I was consuming meat and dairy, like, it was very hard for me to finish a day. I was always sluggish. I always had stomach issues. I was always tired, things like that. And there's a lot of people that will talk about the stamina that you have and the recovery that you have when you're eating a whole food plant-based diet. And I'm not just saying that because I'm pro whole food plant-based food, but I'm saying that from somebody that was not like that before.
So I actually take people through, this is part of my activism, what we call the 14-day DNA activation diet. It's an epigenetics diet. It's completely free, everyone. If you want to come join, it's on Facebook. Just type in DNA activation with Luke. I'll pop up, join our group. It's a 14-day step-by-step course where we teach you how to activate your epigenetics. So epigenetics is a really cool field of study right now. It increases your regeneration, your healing, your intelligence, your intuition, just by, this is all you do, eating only whole foods for 14 days. Zero processed foods.
Yeah.
It switches on over 500 different genetic sequences,
Yeah.
literally stop diseases. And so junk foods is a part of the trap. And again, I teach people like a 90-10 rule. I make the healthiest choices 90% of the time,
Yeah.
and be more relaxed 10% of the time.
Yeah.
Go and enjoy a pizza if you want to enjoy a pizza. Make sure it doesn't have animals on it if you can.
Yeah.
And 90% of the
Yeah.
time make the healthiest choices. And so anyone who joins, I teach them about breath work, I teach them about meditation, teach them
Yeah.
about grounding and earthing. And it's a really cool 14-day thing, because by the end of it, not only do they know about eating whole foods and what that feels like, because it changes really
Yeah,
quickly.
it really does. Yeah.
We also bring them in, then we open their heart with the meditations. They get more connected to nature, because we're
Yeah.
so disconnected from nature. Generally, people, we're in a little house. We're scared of going outside. We get told to be scared of the sun. We get told to
Yeah.
be scared of strangers. We
Yeah.
get all
Yeah.
of this fear programming. And if you can go learn how to be with nature and be with the animals,
Yeah.
it's such a game changer, because you are a part of nature. Did you know?
Exactly.
You are a part of nature. And when you live in a natural way as much as possible, it's so much more enjoyable.
Yeah.
And
It's
I'd
true.
love to talk about animal communication. I've got my experience of it. I'd love for you to share yours. So for anyone who is curious, tell us, what is your experience with animal communication?
Okay, so before I say anything, I truly believe that every single human being has the ability and the capacity to do what I do. A lot of people will refer to me as like a pet psychic or something like that. I do not like that, because psychic has a negative connotation to it, but it also kind of refers to that I have some crazy ability that I can look into the future and that nobody else can do this, right? And whilst intuition plays a big role in my work, it is also the understanding of psychology in animals, how we are all a product of our environment, and also it's purely a muscle that we all have that I have just activated for a longer time than probably majority of society. But there's a lot of people, including you, that do what I do, right? So when I say I've always had this ability, it's because for some reason that muscle didn't become dormant. The thing is that I really believe that every child comes here with an activated muscle. This is why children have specific reactions to certain people. They have this communication with animals. They talk about, imaginary friends. Like they'll talk about these things. You're like, how do you know that? It's because they come here as a full version of a human being, and then they go through the human experience, and a lot of those things become dormant and suppressed. And for some reason,
people say your friend's not real, and you're like, I can see him.
you're like, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I've got a family of mice that follow me around.
Yeah. You guys don't believe I have a family of Dalmatian mice with me at all times? Like what? And so that muscle for me just didn't become dormant. And so through life, through my own experiences of trauma, through working with that ability, working with other very like successful and well-known animal communicators, doing different courses, even though I don't know, like, I don't believe in like getting certified in something, because how do you get certified in something like that, right? But that's a different story. I was always doing that, and that was how I was known as a child. There's been many situations as a child where very specific things happened, and I didn't realize, only later in life did I realize that wasn't happening to anybody else. So like, it's so funny because I bumped into a friend that I went to primary school with the other day, and she was like, yeah, Sarah, I have to tell you this one story. When we were in grade 5, so we were young, she came over to my house. I don't remember any of this. And she came over to my house and I took her to the stables and I was telling her about how the horses felt. And she remembers like going home and telling her mom like how weird I was that I was telling her how the horses feel, you know. I don't remember that, but it goes to show how I didn't realize that other like children weren't thinking about that, you know. Anyways, so that was always true to me. It's been an innate calling in me my entire life. Like if I was not carrying out my purpose of giving a voice to the animals, I literally would not, I would rather not be here. I really don't believe that there is a purpose for me being here, but it's not that. That's just how I've been since the day I was born. So, yeah, I started doing that with people and taking clients, and yeah, just really like honing in on it. But it wasn't the easiest because when I was like, well, this is who I am. This is my calling. This is an ability that I have. And I like have all these amazing clients and my business is growing. But that was secret. Like I was just posting vegan content on Instagram, entertaining, educational vegan content on Instagram, because what else would be the point of me being on Instagram? But as I started to think, okay, but why am I hiding what I do for work? And as I started doing that, I received so much judgment. Like I lost people overnight and it was super unexpected. And then I fell into this like 3 year thing of like going on a dark night of the soul and like being split in two worlds, my professional world where I was having these most amazing transformational experiences with my clients and like just continuous work and making money and like carrying out my purpose and feeling so aligned. And then once that Zoom call would end or that session would end, I would go back to the real world and it was like half of me was hidden, you know, and that really bothered me. And I felt split in half for like 3 years. And until I got to a point, probably it was like middle of last year, where I just was like, I cannot do this anymore. Like I'm really suffering living like this. And I would avoid social situations. I'd avoid family gatherings. I would go to events and people would just say the rudest things to me, you know? And then I realized that my job, it was an epiphany for me. Probably everyone else is like, okay, well, we get it. But for me, I realized that my job is not actually to prove myself. Like I have already proved myself in this work. My job is to serve those that are ready to be served. I'm never going to convince 8 billion people, but that's not my purpose. My purpose is just serve the people that are ready to be served. And once I realized that, it changed something in my mind. The fear of judgment just fell right off, you know? And then I just went all into it. I just went balls to the walls on, you know, just accepting that and posting about that and educating. And I promise you, once I did that, God, the universe, whatever you want to believe, was like, here is a gift for finally giving yourself the gift, you know? And once I did that, everything opened up. I hosted the most beautiful, like, it's just so beautiful. Money cannot even buy the retreat that I had in Mexico.
Yes. Tell us about your Mexico retreats. That sounds super juicy.
Yeah, it was so amazing. I can't wait for the next one. It was the Animal Communication Transformation Retreat, and it included my foundation and advanced training in Tulum at this beautiful hotel in the Mayan jungle called Ikal. And it was just so beautiful. We opened with... Yeah.
I love Ikal. Ikal's amazing.
Yeah,
Everyone,
yeah.
if you
Ikal is
go
like...
to Ikal. I've done loads of cool stuff in Ikal. Beautiful spot.
Yeah,
Right
Ikal is the best. It's
coconuts,
so
ecstatic
beautiful.
dancing, ceremonies.
Yeah,
Shout
so beautiful.
out to Ikal. IKAL. Go check it out.
Ikal. I won't, unless it's in like another country, but I will never do a retreat in another place besides Ikal. Like Ikal is just amazing, from the energy to the intention. Everybody that works there understands intention. Everybody that works there understands that if you take something, you must put something back, that they understand this balance of giving and receiving. I mean, everyone there is just so beautiful. The food they made a custom like whole food plant-based menu for us. We had the most beautiful breakfast, lunch, dinners, like 3-course. We worked on the medicine wheel. It was just stunning.
Amazing.
So yeah, but I mean, to close it off, animal communication is really the understanding that 90% of communication is nonverbal anyways. And when you drop into that, we all have instinct. And when you drop into listening without your ears or seeing without your eyes, that sounds hippie, but it really isn't. Every single human being has the capacity. Communication is happening all around us, even if people or animals are not saying it with words. And so it is, for me, it depends on the session, but it can be an understanding of psychology and them being a product of their environment and how we're going to rewire that. But there is an intuitive aspect to it, but you really are just accessing information in the field that already exists. It's not like, I don't like to be thought of that I have like some crazy ability that no one else has, you know?
I have some great stories about my animal communication journeys, and I do the same with people as well. So I help people and animals. I used to try and think I had to save the world, and I used to go around like, do you want help? Do you want help? Do you want help? It was exhausting. I got like burnout doing that. So now I let the cosmos bring the people to me who I'm supposed to help. And it's a lot more peaceful since I did that. And so when people come to me, I tune in and I ask, am I supposed to help this person? And I get a yes or a no.
Yeah.
And with animals, I play a little game with them. If they want me to send them energy healing, or if they want me to help them, they come up to me and they sit in my lap. And if they come and sit in my lap and I just tune in and I say, would you like some energy work? And they say, yeah, then we're all good to go.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a fun game that I play. And one of my favorite stories. So I have a friend who's a specialist animal communicator as well. She works through Skype, and it's brilliant. And there's this cat, big black cat, super fluffy, amazing being.
Yeah.
This black cat was causing all kinds of trouble in the home.
Yeah.
So my friend got in touch with them through Skype, connected into the cat, just asked, why are you upset? What do you need? And it said, I don't like my name. I'm like this royal cat, big personality, and they've called me Fluffy. Every time they call me Fluffy, it makes me angry.
So emasculating, yeah.
And so they changed the cat's name.
Yeah.
Its behavior completely changed.
Yeah, names are a big thing.
But no one had ever thought to just take a moment to ask the cat, what would you like to be called?
Yeah.
It's black and fluffy, so we're calling you Fluffy. Imagine someone just does that. Oh, you're blonde, you're called Blondie for your whole life.
No, imagine.
Hey, Blondie. And you're like,
ew.
Who are you?
Yeah. Ew. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, names are a big thing. And also because everything is intention, you know? So like the intention in a name like that and like what you're sending to that animal every day by just calling them Fluffy, it's kind of like so whatever kind of energy, you know? Names are a very big thing. That's why with all of our animals, it takes a while to like drop in and think about what is it that they are bringing, you know? And then generating a name from that. There's a lot of stories with animal communicators and animals with their names. So yeah, that's amazing. It's a big thing.
Yeah, and with people too. With our daughter, our first daughter, my wife had a list of like 100 baby names, and she was trying to pick, and I just know because I know this stuff. I said our daughter will tell us what her name is.
Yeah.
And whatever you put after the word "I am" becomes your reality. So it's really important your name. Like Luke Scott III is my chosen name.
Yeah.
And so we get to choose our names. And it's really, really important. And if your parents weren't super sensitive, they might have given you a name that's less than optimal. If you don't love your name, change it.
Yeah.
And so our daughter came to my wife in a dream and she told us her name, which is Nura.
Oh, wow.
N-U-R-A. And we looked up the meaning, and Nura means divine light in Arabic.
Amazing. Wow.
So when you say I am Nura, you're saying I am divine light.
That's insane. I love that name. That's so beautiful.
Yeah, and our second daughter did the same thing. She came to my wife in a dream and she told us, and it's like being sensitive enough to listen. I call them the whispers. Like Cosmos gives you the whispers, and you have 100%. To learn how to be present. I'm sure that's something you teach in your course. You have to learn how to be slow and soft and open and present. And everything speaks to you. I taught my little daughter how to go and talk to trees. So she goes and she hugs the tree.
Oh my God, cute.
She asks the tree how it is. asks it if it's anything that it needs. And imagine if we created this next generation of beautiful, sensitive beings.
Yeah.
Instead of teaching them algebra and gosh knows what else you learn in the school
Yeah.
system,
Fake history.
teach sensitivity and
One-sided history.
compassion.
Yeah.
Yeah, fake history, absolutely. And
That's
so
amazing. I love that.
for anyone who is thinking about animal communication, have you got any juicy stories about any animals that you helped that you're
Oh gosh.
happy to share?
There's a lot. Let me think of a good one. Yeah, I mean there's a lot. The one that made me realize probably that I was a bit different was when I was young. I used to ride horses and we went to the stable and the horses on either side, and I walked past this horse and I was young. Okay. So that is important to know because there's a lot of things about the world I didn't know at that time. And I kept on getting this image of the horse like screaming, but his mouth is closed. And one of the grooms, this is kind of, I don't know if you're going to keep this in the podcast because it is a bit dark, but like it's relevant.
Keeping everything in the podcast. There's no
Okay. Yeah.
share your
Well,
thoughts.
it's a bit like hectic, but yeah, I was probably like, I think 7 or 8. And this horse kept on showing me this image where he was screaming, but his mouth was closed. And the groom was in there and he was like this dark shadow. And the horse was in so much pain and it was very dark. Like there was the moon and like stars in the image that I was receiving right as a kid. And it was like very like weird, but I was used to just having that kind of communication, but it was like very intense. And so I don't know, like I didn't know what to do with that information. Left it, came back 2 days later. I went every 2 days and the same thing happened, but like the man was in a different position, right? And so I said to my horse riding teacher at the time that I think this man's name is hurting the horse. And she was like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like this man is, I won't say his name, hurting the horse, but it's at nighttime. And I felt a lot of anxiety. And then when I told it to her and released it, I felt relaxed. So this was already as a child understanding that navigating that of like once you hit something on the head or you release it in the right way, you like guided to release it, what changes, because that's like a guiding light of what you're supposed to do with information. And kind of like let it go. I didn't really know what to do. It's a bit confusing. And then it came out like 2 weeks later, my teacher came to tell me, like, to thank me for telling her, because what had happened is the owner of the stable was walking like a few days after what I told her and found this man in the stable at night, like 2 a.m, abusing this horse. And when she told me, I felt like such a sense of relief. But then it was also like, I don't know, there was a part of me that was like super happy that I was able to like communicate that. But that was when I started thinking like, why wasn't anybody else seeing it? Like the owner didn't know it. And like this, like my horse riding teacher didn't know it. And that's when I was starting to think something, so that was that. Thinking back on that story now, you cannot deny the ability. You cannot deny that nonverbal communications is happening between humans and animals all the time, because there's no way for me to have known that, especially at such a young age when I didn't know like what that was, like I didn't know about abuse like that. So there was that. And then I'm trying to think of like some funny stories because I have like intense stories. Oh, okay. So another one. So you talking about how animals will take on our stuff, right? So I had a client that had booked a session for me because the dog was acting like super weird and they didn't know what was going on. And they taken to the vet. The vet said that there was nothing going on, but the dog was like kind of like freezing and then falling over. And the vet couldn't understand. Like the vet was saying, it's not seizures. We don't know what's going on. They did all the tests. So they booked a session with me. And the way that I work is that they only show me an image and the name, age, sex, breed. I don't want to know anything else. Because otherwise, if I go into the session with that information, it's going to taint my experience. So I only read that stuff afterwards. But anyways, she was concerned. They didn't know what was going on. So when I connected with this animal, the animal was showing me this man in this like chair and this like big living room. And it was kind of like a rocking chair. And he was probably like 65. And they showed me like this, my heart like racing. And then I'm just frozen and then I fall over. But it's the man's heart. And so I'm like, okay, is there anything else? And he just keeps on showing me this image of this man. So I get on the call and it's a bit awkward because this is all that I have to bring to the table, you know? And I said, look, you booked for the session. Like, this is what you wanted to find out. But the only thing that I can give you is this huge concern around this man. He's like 65 and he sits in this rocking chair. So who is that? It's not a grandfather. And she's like, oh, that's my father. And the father lives with them. And I was like, look, there is a huge concern around this man's heart. Like, I feel like my heart is going to, it just starts pumping, so much electricity. And then it just stops and I just fall over. And she's like, oh, that's so weird. Like, we don't know anything about his heart. Like, we'll go get him checked out. And I was like, yeah, there's just a huge concern around this. And I don't know, like, I could be batshit crazy, but this is the image that they showed me. Thanks, great, end of the call. 2 days later, unfortunately, he had a heart attack. He did survive though, but he fell over in his chair onto the floor. And when she found him, the dog was sitting with him, like barking. So this was a combination of two things. I think that the animal was obviously presenting information about their human to people ahead of time. This happens a lot. I've had a lot of sessions like this, and mirroring that only for like a better outcome. They're not just taking on the energy and then just like taking on the energy. There's a reason for it. And I do believe that animals can pick up on information further in the field before it happens. So I do also think that it was a warning. So yeah, I can keep on going with stories, but yeah.
We teach about this stuff in our quantum regression course because quantum physics and quantum mechanics shows you that time doesn't exist in the way that we think it does.
Yeah.
The past and the future, they're not real. There's just now.
Yeah.
Everything's happening in this now. And animals and children and sensitive adults, this is one of the things we teach people.
Yeah.
I'm literally doing a training on it this Sunday. We call it transcending the law of time.
Amazing.
It's how you can play with timelines and how you can go and see these different futures, potential futures.
Yeah.
And I do inner child programming as well with people. So we help them. I just literally did that yesterday. And once you become sensitive to this, magic happens because exactly like you said, you can start to see all of these weird and wonderful things that can't be explained, but they are being explained. Do you know about the Institute of Heart Math, Sarah? Have you dived into the Institute of Heart Math?
No.
An amazing institute. They've been studying the human heart for like decades.
Yeah.
And they do all these tests. They hook you up to different brain monitors and all the scanners and everything, and they can measure your perspiration and your heart rate, all of this stuff. So they do an experiment where they take cards that either have like a happy image that makes you feel happy or a scary image, and then they measure what happens when you show the happy image. Your body reacts in a certain way. When you show the scary image, reacts in a different way. Okay, here's where it gets kooky.
Yeah.
Is the human heart starts reacting before they even turn the card around.
Yeah.
And it's 100% accurate.
Yeah.
Before they've seen the card, it knows if it's a happy card or a scary card.
Yeah.
And it's a measurable time before. Now, how does that work? How does the human heart know what's going to happen before it's even happened?
Yeah.
And this is what we teach people, how to be these multidimensional beings and we talked a little bit about the Matrix movie. It's like, what's real and what's not? And how do these superpowers work? It's phenomenal. But I believe animals are these really multidimensional beings. And I've got a great story about, I was doing a session with a human, and they were telling me, we did their process and we helped them with whatever their issue was. And they told me their cat was playing up and, it was causing some tension. So we tune into the cat. I've never seen the cat. I don't know the cat. Like, I'm just there. We just tune in because quantum physics teaches as well, that every particle is connected to every other particle by this quantum field. So I tune into the cat's energy, and what we pick up is there's a new cat that's moved in the block, and it's bullying them. And she goes, yeah, there's a new neighbor. They've just moved in, and now this, yeah, and they've got a cat. And so what happened was their cat's distressed, and it's trying to say, hey, someone's in my territory now. You know, they're like, there's this new kid on the block. Now, how's it going to get its humans' attention?
Yeah.
It has to act up because you're busy, and
yeah.
a lot of children do this as well. If you don't make time to listen to your children, they have to have a tantrum because that's the only way they get your attention.
Yeah.
So if you do have an animal friend and they are acting out, really take some time, tune in, book a session with Sarah or one of her students. You can just do it on your website, right? You can just book a session. So go book a session with Sarah. She can tune in, see what is it. And often it's not super, super complicated. But I do see as well, Sarah, and I'd love to hear your perspective on this one as well. The way that the pet industry works and the way that we get our animal companions, like the way they breed cats and dogs, for me is absolutely horrendous. And one of my family members, he worked in an exotic pet store where they would, breed snakes and spiders and lizards, and they force breed them, and they're in a cage their whole entire life. We grew up, we had a big tarantula in our house. He was about the size of your hand. He could never leave his cage. He was in a little tiny box his whole life. And it's like,
not the vibe.
When I see any animal in a cage, it breaks my heart. And a house is just a big cage, right? It is, and it's not a natural environment for the animals. How do you see that? Because there are a lot of benefits to having animal companions, for the human and the animal. How do you play that? Because I'm completely against the pet industry, basically, and forced breeding, and pets for profit, I think, is what I would call it. If you're doing it for that reason, that's crazy to me. If you're rescuing animals, if you're have an animal sanctuary, like there's so many rescue animals we can help. What's your perspective on that?
So a lot of people are not going to agree with me on this, but I do not believe in keeping animals indoors, and especially cats, because dogs, you'll take them for a 15-minute walk in the morning and the evening, which in my opinion is just not good enough. But a lot of people have very difficult schedules, and a lot of people are really busy and they try their best. And I appreciate people like that still will carve out time, who will get up early and all of these things, who will get a dog walker in, or who will get different toys so that they're entertained throughout the day. But cats do not get the same privilege. I do not believe in keeping cats indoors. I cannot tell you how many people will call me or book a session with me, and they will say, my cat, the minute that I get home, they attack me. They're not socializing with the other cats. I have to keep them in the room, all of these things. They have crazy anxiety. They're chewing their fur's falling out, all of these things. They're breaking everything, pushing everything off. And I ask them, are they allowed outdoors? No, it's an inside cat. Okay, so what does the cat do most of the days? Well, I have to keep them in my bedroom while I'm at work. So the cat, and it is so many people, and I understand if you're in an apartment, I understand that. But it is not the best quality of life for a living being animal, especially a feline. A cat has in their DNA, in their genetics, the need to hunt and explore and to be out at night and all of these things. This is in their DNA. So their DNA is producing this need, but the need cannot be carried out. So the energy is suppressed. And what happens when you have suppressed energy in an animal? They lash out, anxiety, anger, aggression, all of these things. So if your cat, and this is kind of like I'm being tough, but if your cat has any of those symptoms, it's because their energy is suppressed. They are not being allowed to exist as the feline that they are. I understand that there are situations where you want to keep them safe. It is a very tough thing to want to be able to allow your animal to live their best life whilst keeping them safe. I do understand that. But for me, if you're asking me, I would much rather have a cat that is allowed out any time of day that only lives 3 years than a cat that lives 15 years inside a home that's a cage. So yeah, that's my first thing on that.
There's an important thing for anyone who's listening, and it's coming up towards Christmas time, and a lot of people get pets at Christmas time, and they don't really feel into what will the animal's quality of life be.
Yeah.
Right, and there's a documentary I saw where they put cameras in someone's house while they went to work, and the dogs were just crying the whole day.
It's hell.
Literally, the dogs were just crying. And if you don't know what your dog does for the 8 hours or 9 hours you're at work,
it's
set
so
up some
sad.
cameras in your home and like really feel into, is getting an animal for you, is that you coping with your trauma? Is that like something to make you feel better? But this beautiful being is then going to suffer? Don't do that. Go and get therapy. Go and heal yourself.
Go
figure out, do you really need that? Yeah, go find different ways of coping. Now, animal therapies can be really, really healing for people.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not, like you said, it's not black and white. It's a very grey thing.
Yeah.
So we adopted a feral cat from in the UK. We have, it's called the Cats Protection Agency. They basically, was one of my friends works for the charity. This cat, it was going to die. They asked if anyone could foster it. So we fostered the cat for a while, and we brought it back to health, and then it was too scared to go anywhere else.
Yeah,
and so, well, what do you do in that situation? It's really tough, right? And so again, not black or white or grey. It's a mixture thing, but really like feel into intention is everything. Intention with what you eat, intention when you are, especially if you're going to get an animal companion. And what I see as well is how this relates to children. So we call it, with animals, we call it domestication, right? And the way that you domesticate a horse for me is heartbreaking. They call it breaking the horse in. When you take a wild animal and you turn it into a slave, pretty much. That's what they do. This is what we do to children too. So when I help adults who have anxiety and anger and whatever, it's usually the same things you just said about the cat. Just say those exact same things. They're suppressed. They can't be themselves. They feel trapped.
Exactly.
We live in a box. We work in a box cubicle. We go to in a box car, you know, and it's like, they just want to be free and scream in a forest and dance naked in the woods and you know, swim in the river. And so I think that, again, it's the same as what we talked about with the animal rights thing. So many humans are domesticated and so many animals. I believe we can be the generation that brings consciousness to this whole thing. And creates a world where all beings are free, where all beings are happy, where everyone lives harmoniously. And it might be a pipe dream, but we're going to do the very best.
Strive for it, though. That's the whole point.
Is to the very best that we can in this life.
And then the other thing about the pet industry, and I totally agree with you when it comes to breeding. I really believe, okay, there are certain situations, probably, you know, with police dogs or things like that, even though there are so many Belgian Malinois and German Shepherds that need homes that would make amazing police dogs. But, you know, there's that. But I really believe that if you are exploiting the female reproductive system of a dog to make money, like you couldn't find any other job but that. As an animal communicator who works with victims of breeding, babies, puppies, dogs that were taken away from their mother too early, which is also a thing, this is a common practice when it comes to buying dogs, okay? But also the mothers that are discarded after their body is of no use to a breeder anymore. Not only are there such negative physical side effects to these animals, but the trauma that sits in a mother like that, and the energy and the fear that sits in the blockages that sit in a mother like that, a mother dog, a female dog, it ends up taking the humans that decide to take on a case like that, bless them. There is so much work to be done, so much trauma to rewire, so much fear, so much negative connotation with different parts of their body that we then have to go and work on because some weirdo couldn't find another job. They had to exploit the female reproductive system of a dog. I do not believe in breeding animals. I think there's way better ways to make money. and to contribute to this planet. And it is a fact that when you buy a dog, another dog dies, because there are so many dogs. I think it's 10,000 dogs in the US alone are euthanized a year.
But Sarah, if we stop breeding cows and pigs and dogs, they'll die out. They'll go extinct.
I know, breeders are just doing God's work, apparently. But also, so there's that. I don't agree with it. But with the pet industry, so the pet industry in terms of products is a $70 billion industry. And what I would say to anybody listening that does have animals is to just be mindful of the labels, because what has happened is a lot of products that were initially made for human beings, these brands have realized, oh wow, $70 billion, like we can just get into this market, and they will relabel these products for animals, right? So as an owner of a full spectrum CBD brand formulated for animals, I know what the cost price is of the highest grade, best hemp oil, third-party tested, organic, grown and manufactured in California, with the best Myron glass to protect the contents, a pump dispensary system instead of droppers because of bacterial biofilm. And as somebody who is an animal communicator and knows the effects that it has on an animal and the energetic and emotional experience that they're having, I also know the cost price of these products. I know what something has to be purchased at, and then as retail, what you have to sell it at in order to even make a profit. When you see a $30 or a $15 pet CBD on the shelves, literally run for your life. That stuff is trash, okay?
What about when you see a $1 pet food?
Hell on when wheels.
You see Whisker's pet food, and you read the ingredients and it says
it's just
4% meat derivatives.
Absolute
and it's got cereals and sugar.
God.
They have actual sugar in it, and it's
it's hell.
And then I was just in the park yesterday, and there was a guy. He had 2 dogs, and one of the dogs had cancer. It came to me into my lap, So I did the thing. I'm just in the park with my family. It came seeing and sending it love. And if you're feeding your animal friends this, they call it B grade, right? It's not fit for human consumption. They then give it to the animals, right? And it's absolutely insane. Like, what do you think is going to happen to your animals? Imagine you just eat McDonald's every day. That's like what you're feeding.
No.
Like those cereals, those biscuits that you get. We have one for cats called Go Cat, right? So it's literally $1 for a huge box that lasts a month. It's like, what? This is insane. Disgusting. And when you give that would be like you eating the most sugary cereal every day that's all you ever eat. And so these poor animals, they really feel it. And if you are responsible for animals, like, really try your best to give them the best quality foods that you can, and the best quality products, because like Sarah's Heal, so you can go check out the Heal if your animal does need some supplementation, if there is anything that can help with that. You said anxiety is a big one, right, in animals, and if inflammation. Look at nutrition. It's the same thing I do with humans. First thing, okay, you're not feeling very well. What do you eat? Okay, tell me about your life. How's your home? What's going on in your world? How are your emotions? And they go, what? I have emotions.
And another few things to look out for. What I'm seeing in LA a lot at the moment is these beautifully designed, packaged pet products, and I won't name names, and they're like expensive, and you look at this, you're like, and they're in these nice grocery stores. Wow, this is next level for animals, and it's super expensive. And I turn it around, and it's got yeast, maltodextrin, all this literal trash. I saw one with red 40 in it for an animal. And this thing it was like a little tin like this, beautifully designed. And it was like $45. And what's happening now is, because we're saying, okay, get higher quality stuff. So we usually are like, okay, if it's high quality, it's going to be more expensive, which traditionally is true. But because most of these people that have entered the pet space are aware that most pet parents are not aware of these little things yet about the yeast, about the maltodextrin, about all this other trash that's in these pet products, they're still marketing it as higher grade, but putting these products in. So so I get a lot of clients that will say, my dog has these like crazy allergies, itching, like the paws, the hot spots, all of these things. And they're feeding them a raw diet. They're spending so much money a day on their food. And I'm like, okay, but what treats are you giving them? Send me the labels. And I look at these labels and it's got yeast, it's got rice, maltodextrin, red 40, all of this stuff that is such a high irritant. Like if we are consuming yeast every day, of course, we're going to have candida overgrowth. We're going to have all of those things, So,
And don't give your animals tap water too, people.
Yeah.
Don't give them poisonous food. Don't give them poisonous water.
Yeah.
Sarah, I'd love to hear, if you think about HEAL, anyone who's curious about it, what kind of animals is HEAL really, really good for?
So majority of my customers are dogs, cats, and horses. We have quite a few rescue sheep and pigs, a turkey that's using HEAL, but basically every single animal has an endocannabinoid system. And I think the most beautiful thing about when we talk about hemp is that we all have this endocannabinoid system in our body, meaning that we were given a system in our bodies, humans and animals, to receive cannabinoids from the outside world. God, or whatever you believe, gave us these receptors to receive cannabinoids, to receive healing, to receive anti-inflammatory properties, to receive regeneration, all of these things. And so this is why every single animal can use full hemp, but it depends what type of hemp. So I really believe in full spectrum hemp oil. Isolate products are trash. Don't even waste your time. But each animal has a unique endocannabinoid system. So a lot of people think that it's based off of height and weight and age. And while we would always start low and work your way up, it's actually not true. It depends on how they're burning up energy. So for example, I have a client that has a small Yorkie, and it's a tiny little Yorkie, but it's so high strung that it's burning up energy and anxiety the whole time. It's a rescue Yorkie. This Yorkie needs like 6 pumps before the owner starts to see like a relaxation in the energy. It cannot make them high. It's super safe for animals. Where I have a Rottweiler, and she literally needs half a pump and she's good to go. It's not making them high, it's not making them loopy, but it's a relaxation in the energy because our endocannabinoid system is receiving it. So
I shared an amazing video of this person who is a human who had Parkinson's.
Yeah.
And they just used CBD, and in a few minutes, no shakes, completely able to speak again. Like totally transformed. Their life was suffering, and the magic of CBD, which is now becoming more common, and it's we're in this beautiful time, aren't we, Sarah, where it's really hard to suppress information now because of the internet and podcasts, and they try and censor us with different things. And I had my Facebook account deleted in 2020. I had like 20,000 followers. They just deleted it. I was sharing these videos of doctors telling you that you don't need to be scared and that life's beautiful, and the flu is not a scary thing, and all of this stuff. And I just woke up the next day.
That's crazy.
Deleted. So I'm again back on the game, sharing everywhere. I've just shared yesterday about hemp, how hemp can transform the world as a building material. For clothing, for food, for medicine. It's this incredible super thing. So if anyone hasn't checked out the benefits of CBD yet, go to @LiveHeal, see what Sarah's up to.
And just the quality of the hemp, because again, people are entering this space. Just be aware of how that hemp is extracted. I would never use an isolated product, but hemp it also again comes back to intention. So I have a lot of clients who have rescued dogs from the dog meat trade, testing labs, and obviously they have trauma. And so I don't believe in keeping an animal. Oh, she's going to be scared to greet you. He's a rescue. You keep giving your animal that identity, right? And so when you use hemp for a specific situation like that, what is happening for those people that have anxious animals? Just to understand the psychology of it, so you know that there's a solution and you can completely rewire this. Like your animal doesn't always have to be experiencing that trauma over and over again, or have that identity of being anxious or fearful. And I'm telling you this because I did this with my soul dog Almond. I completely rewired his anxiety. He was non-functional from the abuse that he received. So what happens is if you look at your animal, they're a product of their environment. Whether you know exactly what happened to them or you don't, they associate negative belief systems and feelings and energy around a certain thing. So for example, if an animal was hit or beaten by a man, I'm just giving it as an example, this dog now has a negative belief system and energy associated with the image and the symbol of a man, right? And so when this dog goes through life and sees men or the energy of men, immediately the survival instinct kicks in. I must be fearful. The negative expectation associated with this kind of symbol of a man. And thus anxiety comes into the body, right? And so what heal does is it lifts the curtain of anxiety. So I can be equipped in that moment. But with animals like this, you also have to change the association that they have. So heal lifts this curtain of anxiety, assists them in this moment, but then you have to prove to them that it is safe to be around men. So it's a protocol. It's lifting the curtain of anxiety whilst at the same time showing them, having men approach them, giving them treats, fun, associating these positive feelings around the symbol of a man. And through repetition and through the assistance of a product like Heal, over time, they start to rewire and replace a negative belief system with a positive one. And this is what I do with all of my clients. You really start seeing the best results between 3 to 6 months. And I promise you, there is light at the end of the tunnel. If you are somebody that has an anxious animal, and I know what stress it puts on you because you're like, I want them to live their best life. I don't know what to do with them. I hate seeing them like this. There is 100% solutions. When your vet turns around and says, oh, you got to just give them Xanax and Prozac, it's just anxiety, that is a Band-Aid, but you can get to the root of it and rewire it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. We are coming up towards the conclusion of this podcast. I think we could talk for days.
Yeah.
We are going to do a quick fire round if you're up for that, Sarah, in a moment. I'm going to fire some things at you and see how you feel.
How many Dalmatian mice do you have? Quick.
I'm going to fire some quick fire questions at you. And just before we do that, I'd love to share with everybody, like, everything Sarah is saying about animals is exactly what I do with humans. It's the same. If you had a bad experience with a guy in your childhood, you fear men, you don't trust men, work on it, reprogram yourself. That's a big thing I do. Like, people who come to me, a lot of them, they don't trust men, and then they get to know me and they're like, whoa, you actually care about me. And I'm like, yeah, I do. I'm here, and this is how we reprogram the world. This is one of the really amazing things you're doing by speaking out, is we can help people and say, look, you can help the animals. Don't listen to what all the conventional vets or pharmaceutical industry say. There's a different way to be. And there's this principle we teach in Curate called co-regulation. And co-regulation is where, when you regulate your nervous system, you can regulate the nervous systems of other people too. So if you're a really calm person, the animals will be magnetized to you. Your calm, regulated nervous system literally helps theirs. And it's the same with children. If you're anxious, really a high chance your children will pick up that anxiety, because their nervous system starts to get aligned with yours. They synchronize.
Yeah, it's true.
So if you do have an anxious animal, I'd say come at it from a few different angles. Get the Heal, get the CBD, amazing products. Get Sarah or one of her students to do some animal communication sessions and look at what inside you is also here in this situation. And if you do all three of those things, everything will change.
Love it. So true.
Okay, are you ready? Quick fire.
I'm ready.
Round. Yeah. Ready. Okay, it's going to be I'm going to put you on the spot with a few of these. So I just want you to speak your truth, okay? From the heart. Okay.
Let's go. Drop into the heart space. Let's go.
Can cats and dogs be vegan?
Okay, well, they can. I would probably say that dogs can be vegan 100%. Cats, medically speaking, I'm not licensed to give medical advice. A lot of people will say that cats are obligate carnivores. And so this is something that may put into play your decision. But I would say that if you are raising an animal and and it's a safe transition, you should definitely try it. I've seen amazing results from animals going vegan, but I would say that I'm not licensed to give this medical advice. And there are experiences from both sides. So I would definitely look into, if you are transitioning them. I know some very super healthy animals that did have cancer, they no longer do, like dogs, that consume a vegan diet. But then I also know some that had to go back to eating meat. So make sure that you have all the information and do your best with that.
that was a tricky one, wasn't it? I saw you. Oh wow, yeah. Medical advice.
It's a tough one, because
my best advice, everyone, go check out online. There are loads of forums of amazing vegans who have animal friends, and they give you all the different advice. So I know people who say they've had dogs that have been 20 years vegan. They're healthy, happy, shining. Same with cats. But I know people who said that doesn't work as well. And there are specific foods out there for cats. I think it has to have taurine in it and some other things. And there's like, if you're giving your cat whiskers or like processed food anyway, see if you can give them a better quality of food and experiment, right? Don't just do what everybody else does. Find your way. Okay.
Yeah.
Next question. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Should people vaccinate their animal friends?
That's such a good question. It really depends for what, but I would, if I got a new dog, I wouldn't, only because there has been so many situations in animals that I personally know that have severely suffered from the most basic vaccines that they've received. And so for me, I feel like the risk is much greater for their health and the seizures and all of these things that have happened, than just not vaccinating them. So, yeah.
Yeah, we're on the same boat. So we have not injected our children with anything. We're choosing to deal with things holistically and naturally as much as physically possible. But again, exactly the same thing. Go online, have a look at both sides of the information, make an educated choice. Don't just do what your vet says, because your vet went to veterinary school and they learned from pharmaceutical sales reps, and they feed you the food that their sponsors make them feed you. They don't feed you the food that's best for your animals.
Yeah. I mean, majority of the animals I've had in my life have never been vaccinated, and they are as right as rain. And it's also different on where you are. So in America, usually, and England, I think also for the most part, when you get a puppy, they're not allowed to walk outside until they've had all of their vaccines, and they've got to stay inside, and it's like all the specific stuff, and they can't have their paws on this and this and this. And it's like, that's not how animals, like, that's not what happens with animals. Like, animals have the ability, and so do humans, and the ability, for the most part. There are certain things, there's certain reasons that certain sicknesses do not exist today, and that's because of certain vaccination programs throughout history. Yes, that is true. But, getting a puppy and then having to pump them with all these things so that they can be safe in their environments, it makes no sense, because dogs thrive across the board if they're not vaccinated,
My cat can't go outside. It hasn't had its injections yet. And I'm like, that's an interesting way to think. It's kind of anti.
There's certain sicknesses. So there's a certain sickness that was actually rife in LA about 2 years ago. That for sure I would vaccinate a dog for. But those are like these crazy things that flare up. This common thing of like every dog and every cat has to have these vaccines from the moment of their inception. I don't believe in that. Yeah.
Got one more hard question potentially, and then I've got a fun one. How do you feel about people spaying and neutering their animal friends?
Again, very complicated one. I do not believe in spaying or neutering your animals, especially too young. There's a reason for these mechanisms in place, and hormonal imbalances really do come into play when you spay and neuter your animals. Having said that, though, there is a lot of risk that you avoid when you do spay and neuter. You want to be careful with, if you have a cat or a dog and they're not spayed and they go out into the world and they are impregnated, there's a lot of things that can happen. And I would be vigilant about that. But I wouldn't, if you are going to spay or neuter your animals, please look into what the safe age is to do that. There's common practice that, especially for the females, to spay them too young, and they for sure should have their first period, TMI, but they for sure should have their first period before you ever consider doing that. And then also with the males, if you are going to neuter, again, I'm not licensed to give medical advice, so take what you will, leave what you don't want. When you neuter an animal, you're taking the balls of a man. And so when you take the balls of a man, don't be surprised when they turn around and they're like low energy. They change, their personality changed. A lot of people talk about the personality of their dog changing when they're neutered. So again, if you are going to do that, please wait until they're much older, because if they also, medically speaking, and this is something that like all of my vets told me anyway, so I can't talk on this, but they are at much higher risk of certain diseases and cancer if testosterone and estrogen is taken out of their body too soon. So again, educate yourself on that.
Put yourself in the animal's shoes, everybody.
Yeah.
If you're going to get a pet for Christmas and you have to chop off their testicles, imagine you did that to a baby boy, or imagine you gave a baby girl a hysterectomy.
Yeah.
Like what their life would be like, completely out of harmony with their environment. One of our family members, they did that. They had a beautiful little cat, and they chopped off his testicles. That little cat will never be a man, will always be a little boy. It'll never go through puberty, and you can see from its personality how that affects it. And it's one of these things people don't think about when they buy bacon from the shop. They don't think about the consequences. And when they get a cat or a dog, they don't think about the consequences. So everyone, if you can just be a bit more conscious in all the ways, I think we can make this world a better place really, really quickly. And when you stop paying for stuff, they'll stop breeding them, because there'll be no money in it. There's already no money in it. Do you know that the UK government, they give like £3 billion a year subsidies for dairy farmers, because the dairy farmers, I literally go and speak with the farmers, they don't make any money. They make a loss every year. They only make money from what the government gives them. And so if we can, as a collective, instead of the government giving $3 billion to the dairy farmers, they give $3 billion to the organic fruit farmers or the organic farmers. There's a great charity. I do a podcast with them called the Vegan Organic Network. If you know any farmer who's looking at switching to growing veganically, vegan organic, just go to veganorganic.net, and they have all the everything. They just help them, mature them. They make way more money.
Yeah, exactly.
No animals get hurt. Actually get healthy foods.
The earth is regenerated.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing.
Absolutely. So, fun questions.
Yeah.
Ready?
I'm ready.
That was quite intense, wasn't it? A quick fire round.
I love it.
So you can answer this seriously or sillily. It's up to you. Maybe both.
Yeah.
If someone comes and joins your animal communication masterclass, transformational projects, what are the benefits of being an animal communicator?
Well, if you are someone that feels a mission in your heart to do with animals, and you feel like you want to be a voice for the voiceless or make this place better for them, this is an amazing way for you to pivot your purpose into actual career. And that sounds all hunky-dory, but it is actually an amazing way to combine your passion with making money. So for me, the thing that I really struggled with is that I was split in two. I had this amazing mission, this amazing ability, and this amazing passion that will never die for animals. But then I had a day job, and I felt so misaligned until I bridged those two together and actually started building my own animal communication career. And now I feel alignment. You know, I don't feel like I'm split in two and that I have to choose. Like, passion is just passion, and you just got to get a job to make money, because we have such a small amount of time on this earth, and you might as well spend it finding a way to make money doing what you love. So building an animal communication career the right way, discovering your unique code. Everybody receives information a very different way. Discovering the business side of it is an amazing way for you to pivot your purpose into career. So, yeah.
Amazing. So we'll chop that up and we'll make that into a reel and we'll post that everywhere so we can promote your retreat. Everyone go join Sarah's masterclass. It's completely free. Go learn all about it. Where can people find your masterclass?
Yeah, so the masterclass is happening October 21st, 22nd, 23rd at different times. So there's a link in my bio and you just sign up for that masterclass. It's free, it's live. So if you have questions, there's going to be a Q&A after all of them. And then in that masterclass, you will get access to the course.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you the same question, but this time can we do a silly one?
Let's do it.
So the benefits of being an animal communicator. I'll say the question again. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Silly. So if people come and join your animal communication masterclass, what are some of the benefits they might experience being an animal communicator?
Yeah, some of the benefits of becoming an animal communicator, your brain just expands and you just can access information on every single planet. Like you can close your eyes and all of a sudden you're in a library in the Sirian star system and you can read any book that you want. It's such a vibe. You also automatically get to understand butterfly language, and you will understand what that butterfly language is if you join the masterclass. And alternatively, you will get free access to, you will get free tickets to the Dalmatian mice repertoire that happens every Sunday. It's a very private event, only for the world's finest. So yeah, those are the benefits.
I can highly recommend the Dalmatian mice concerts.
Yeah.
I've been a member for a while now. It's only the top activists get invited.
Yeah. They have also the hors d'oeuvres. The hors d'oeuvres at these concerts are just to die for.
But no one dies.
But no one dies. That's like the whole twist.
Sarah, thank you so much for being such a superhuman and for everything that you do and for being brave. And I know when the trolls come and they say the things, it's tough. And I've been in the same position.
Yeah.
But when your mission is so important, everyone, if you're listening, if your mission is so important to you, be brave. And you made a great video. I'd love to just end with this. Go check out on her Instagram. She said, take the fucking challenge. Yeah. Just take the challenge. Do it.
Yeah. It's true.
And if you feel it in your heart, go for it. Like Sarah said, once you start living in alignment, the cosmos conspires. It brings you all the things you need.
Yeah.
So go, be brave, have fun. Life's supposed to be fun, by the way.
I know, exactly.
And go find your fellow vegan friends and eat potatoes and oats and have a great time.
That's so funny. Thank you so much for having me. This was amazing.
Look, amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Everyone, thank you for tuning into this episode of Leading Edge Conversations. Go check out all our other amazing episodes. Go see the one with Bobby Smith. He ate only watermelons for 108 days. He's absolutely thriving. Go see our beautiful people living truly on the leading edge of consciousness. And if you're still listening to this right now, that is you. You are one of those people. Maybe you'll come on the podcast one day if you're brave and if you take the challenge. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Leading Edge Conversations podcast. Make sure to check out our other episodes where we have incredible interviews with people truly living on the leading edge of consciousness.